Welcome back to August 2017 Breck Buzz, where we're delving deeper into an issue that is interesting for all of our viewers out there. This month we're focusing on community development or the planning department. And after we had the last segment of our attainable housing, our workforce housing, like I said, what happens is we get places for our workforce to live, and they start to get married, and then they start to have babies. And so then childcare becomes a pretty big issue to keep our community workforce together and create our community character. So in this segment, we have Jennifer McAtamney, who handles our childcare program. And most people, I think, would be surprised to hear that we do have a childcare department.
You know, it's pretty unusual for a town. I probably am one of the few, for sure, in the rural resort region, childcare program managers. But you know, the town's been involved in childcare for a really long time. You know, going back 30 plus years. We've given land donations for Carriage House. We helped, I'm sure, with some of the fundraising. We built that back in the 90s. But really in 2006 is when we really started focusing on childcare. We were at a kind of a critical point. We were seeing huge wait lists, and the council made it one of their top 10 priorities. And at that time, we created a housing and childcare committee, which focused on both those important issues because they really are intertwined. And at that time, really went whole hog into making sure that childcare is part of our vital infrastructure here in the community. Because if we are going to do what our vision plan says and be a place where people from all walks of life can live, work, and play, that means we need to create the support structures to make that be able to happen. What we saw is that our market is broken. And so we can't let the marketplace take care of itself. Families, young working families, based on our low-wage economy, can't afford what would be market prices in order to pay teachers well and have the right kind of ratios that you need to have high quality childcare. And so we delved in, we did a number of things. The first thing we did is we went in and we paid off the mortgages at each of the schools and had them take that money and then start a capital reserve fund. That way they didn't have to be fundraising for roofs or fences or other vital infrastructure that they had. Furthermore, we went in and we said what we'd like to do is we'd like to increase the teachers' salaries to make sure that we had high quality teachers. You know, basically to be a preschool teacher, you need the same qualifications and the same kind of training that we do for teaching kids K through 12. So this is a real profession, and at the time they were being paid the same as people who are running lifts. So we did a big bump in salaries at that point in time to help retain staff there, and then we asked the schools to start raising the cost of care over time so that they could cover that full cost of salaries and have real sustainable, financially strong institutions. Well, when that happened, what that meant is many of our families could no longer afford childcare. Like Lori was talking, we don't want people spending more than 30% of their income on housing, much like that in childcare. People shouldn't expect to spend more than 13 to 15% of their income on childcare. And we see families who are truly cost burdened who are paying 20, 25%. And so we created a tuition assistance program. And the way that works is the family pays what they can afford to pay. So if a family makes, let's take a typical family that makes 100% of the area median income, around $88,000, which is typical for what we see for resort jobs. And we want to make sure that they can afford and not be cost burden. We want to make sure they can pay their bills and they can pay their childcare, and that it is vital for them to have that childcare so they can go to work. These are people who have been in the community for quite some time. A lot of these folks came in as young people, fell in love with the community, then fell in love with each other, found a house in the Wellington neighborhood or in Valley Brook, and now it's time for them to start a family. And there's a real reality when they have the baby and they realize that childcare for 3 days a week is going to be $1,200 a month. And how do you handle an expense like that is the same as your mortgage? And so the town's tuition assistance program makes sure that families aren't cost burdened. So we keep those families to 13% to 16% of their income, depending on how many children they have and what their income is. So, and then we take care of the money above that. What most people don't realize today is that infant care full-time is around $19,000 to $20,000 a year. That's a lot of money. Imagine what happens when you have 2 kids. You could be looking at a bill of $30,000 to $35,000 for full-time care. And really, as we look around our economy, it doesn't really support those kind of jobs. So if we want to keep those families here, we just need to keep them until they get to elementary school, right? And they're the people who are in key jobs. They are the managers, they are firefighters, they are teachers. I mean, they are holding jobs that we really view as key to being able to function and deliver the service and the world-class experience that we do to our visitors. So keeping those families here for that period of time and getting them over that hump keeps us a real community.
Absolutely. And there's been a lot of studies that have shown that between the ages of birth and 3 is a critical time. So, making sure that we do have those professionals that are being paid, a good wage, creates that community to be able to keep them here and create our real community.
I mean, and many people here are watching the show. Their kids grew up and went to Little Red or Carriage House or maybe Timberline now that we built in 2007, and they're all now thriving. Even our school district views early education as one of their top funding priorities. What's really nice for us is, as the town, we partner with our 4 nonprofit centers, and so we can work with families who have kids going to school there. We also, when families use combinations of care, we can also help calculate that. The aid and the assistance that we give goes directly to those our partner schools because they're nonprofits. And so we can work with families all along the way. It's really amazing. About half of the families who use care receive some kind of assistance from the town of Breckenridge, which is pretty incredible.
So if families, individuals, and or businesses want to learn more about this, how do they go about that?
Yeah, they should go to our website at townofbreckenridge.com, and as you click on that menu, either on Live or Work, you'll see childcare assistance, and on those pages you can learn all about our programs. There's a wonderful annual report that really delves deeply into all the aspects of the program and the work we do, because not only do we handle tuition assistance, but we also really provide advocacy for the teachers. We provide some training for their board of directors. We believe that it's really important to have a foundation and for them to understand what it is to serve for a nonprofit and make sure that they have the tools to be successful in guiding these schools over time. And that those parents who are involved on the boards at those schools will go on to their PTSA and their BAC and hopefully maybe even the LOC of the Colorado Classic Bike Race.
There you go.
Lo and behold. So
it's a circle of life.
It's a circle of life. And one of the things that has been so amazing for me working on this program is I talk to people every day and I find out what it really means to be a middle class family in this community and what the struggles are. And if we can just keep them here, it is their dream to raise their children in a safe and healthy environment that we have here in Breckenridge, and with a combination of workforce housing and childcare, we can help them be able to be strong members of our community and keep our community a real town.
Right, which is really, if we didn't have this program, we would not be able to keep those families here.
We would not be able to keep those families here.
And the diversity and I think what really keeps a community, no matter where you are, what keeps it so vital is that you continually, like we do have a great balance. We have the retirees that love it here and, kind of help out and volunteer at different places.
They come and read at the childcare centers.
Exactly. But we also need the people that help work it and to raise the families and be a part of our nonprofits, but supporting them with the duck races and things like that. So if we didn't have that program, what do you think our community would look like?
I think the lights would turn off at 4 o'clock. If we didn't have workforce housing, if we didn't combine that and partner that with childcare, I think we would be much like Vail. So when the lifts close, the lights turn off. But instead, you come here and we really have turned into a year-round community with neighborhoods like Wellington and Valley Brook and now the Blue 52. I mean, we had the launch for Blue 52. I had as many of my customers there as anyone else did because we'd see so many young families coming there who are settled in our community and they just had babies and they're starting to explore the land of childcare, and it's just amazing. And to know that those kids have been here, I'll tell you, we had really interesting data out of our tuition assistance program last year. We found that on average, our families had been here up to 10 years before they had their kids.
Yeah, and that's truly what the community is and what we wanted from the Breckenridge vision.
Yeah.
We want that community character and that kind of rollover, whatever.
Well, it's our brand, right? It's not just how we live, but it is.
We're not just a resort.
We're not just a resort. We are truly a real town, and to be a real town, we need people. We need young people. We need families with children. I mean, there's nothing better than walking down Wellington and seeing people pushing strollers and walking dogs and kids playing in the park, and know that they live here all the time and they get to make this beautiful place their home.
Great. So what have you got coming up for the future, 2018 and beyond?
You know, we'll continue to refine and work on our tuition assistance program. We're looking at a pretty substantial remodel and reface of Carriage House. It's been around for about 22 years, and it has been used by many young children. So you can only imagine it's time for it to be refreshed. So we've got that on tap. You know, one of the things I'm very excited about also is we're looking to put some funds aside to hire a grant writer because of the town's substantial contribution to childcare. We are in a good position to write some collective impact grants, especially around professional development for teachers and around contract services to make sure that we have the right professionals in the schools to identify kids with social, emotional needs, those exciting things. And one of my biggest things is really working with the schools to make sure that teachers have access to healthcare.
Great.
So those are, for me, this is a huge passion. I've been involved in housing and childcare for a long time. It is a joy every day to come to work and help local working families.
Great. Thank you for all the work you do.
Thanks.
Okay, next up, we're going to now close out the session with talking about 100% renewables. It is a kind of a big push for our community development department right now in our community. So we'll hear more from our Assistant Director of Community Development, Mark Truckee, next.